Quizmaster session now. Here goes, take 5 or whatever we're at. Okay. We're going to talk about Quizmaster. Okay? And just show of hands again. I know we have a few different people. How many of you have or will be serving as Quizmasters? Okay, a few of us. Okay. The rest of you, I'm assuming, are coaches or parents or coordinators? Okay.
Yes.
You still want to know what the Quizmasters are doing and how to do it, because that way you can identify if they're doing it the right way, and that's what we want to do here. So what we're going to do to make sure that we cover this, because this is one of the biggest changes in the rule book, is the coach's appeal. Now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the differences between what we have this year and what we've had in previous years, which is mostly nomenclature, just the way we word it. The procedure has essentially not changed at all. However, the procedure still eludes a lot of people. So we're going to cover that first off, okay? Because this is going to happen, okay? You have probably seen some of those really gung-ho coaches, and they're caught up in the competition, like me, because that's definitely me, and they will call for a judge's ruling, because they're fighting for their kids. Or they're fighting for their kids by saying, I think the kid on the other team was wrong. I'm fighting for my kids because I told my kids that that's the wrong answer, and now you're saying it's right, and you're messing my kids up. So I'm going to fight for my team. Okay? This is going to come up. Mindset, first of all, change your mindset. There is nothing ungodly, unbiblical, or bad about calling for a coach's appeal, whether it's for your team or against the other team. It's not bad. It's not wrong. You're just trying to make sure we follow the match fairly. It is a competition. We keep score. And it matters to the kids. Now, some of them it matters a little bit more than others. I know. Okay? I get it. But it matters. So we're going to provide an avenue for you to say, hey, wait a minute. Have we considered all the guidelines in order to make a decision of correct or incorrect? Have we followed all of them the right way? Time out. 12:15. Thank you, sir. Okay, and that's the point of a coach's appeal. It gives you as a coach the opportunity to say, man, I think my kid was right. And as I mentioned in the last session, do you have a copy of the new rule book? Okay, good. If you go back, if you are presenting as a coach, or you are listening as a quizmaster to a request for a coach's appeal, and it's not rooted on page 13 or 14 in the guidelines, you're probably not listening to a coach's appeal. Okay? And a coach's appeal, okay, look on page 15 here, in the middle of the page, number 3, under coach's appeals. A coach's appeal is permitted only to change the decision of the quizmaster and or judges concerning the correctness of a response. That is the whole purpose of a coach's appeal. As a coach, I would call for appeals. Again, the nomenclature has changed. It's been called judges' rulings. It's been called appeals. It's been called point of order. We've had all these different names that I've seen over 38 years. But it's all the same thing. The coach has the opportunity to make an appeal, to make a request. Hey, have you considered all the rules in deciding whether that answer is correct or incorrect? That's the whole point. Okay? That's what a coach's appeal is for. Okay, now, once you've achieved the understanding of what's going on, how do you go about presenting the coach's appeal as a coach and dealing with what the coach has asked for as the quizmaster, as the judges? Okay, so we're going to go through this real quick, okay, because this is probably one of the key things that you want to get. Number 1, and this is a new rule. Mark, you were trying to make mention of this earlier, and you are completely correct. This is new. Team procedures for coach's appeal, the very top of page 16 in the rule book. Number 1, the head coach or assistant coach may initiate a coach's appeal. This is new. One time it was only the head coach. Now the assistant coach can call for a coach's appeal. However, jump down to number 3. Only the head coach may present the appeal. Okay? So the head coach or the assistant can say, hey, I'd like to have a coach's appeal. Okay, you got 30 seconds. After 30, you can talk for, you're allowed to talk with each other. Rule 2A, the head coach may verbally communicate with one member of the team. Okay, you can chat, but you only get 30 seconds total. But the only one that can talk to the quizmaster at that point is the head coach. Not a quizzer, not the assistant coach. Even if the assistant coach called for the coach's appeal, only the head coach can verbalize it. Okay? So, once the quizmaster is granted the appeal, which means the timer starts, 30 seconds, the team requesting the appeal has 30 seconds to prepare and present their appeal to the quizmaster and judges. During the preparation of the appeal, the head coach may verbally communicate with one member of the team. Here's what I would do as a head coach. If I didn't know the rule book as well as I wanted to, man, that rule's in the book. Hell, Mr. Bryan said it was on page 13 and 14. Let's find it. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. I want to make my appeal but the coach, you only get 30 seconds total to find it, quote it, and apply it. 30 seconds. That's it. We're not into a legal wrangling. Yeah, we're not in for a debate. This is my opinion. I'm sharing it based on this rule. Okay, now please note 2B. The remaining members of the presenting team and the other team may not communicate except as allowed under team privileges and restrictions. So the other kids sit quietly. The other team sits quietly. The rest of your team sits quietly, just waits. It's only 30 seconds. We can make it. Number 3, only the head coach may present the appeal. Number 4, the issues and guidelines being used to support the appeal should be stated during the presentation. In other words, you're basing your request for coach's appeal, and it better be on page 13 and 14, because if it's not, you probably do not have a valid coach's appeal. I'm expanding what the rule says here. Okay? But it should be stated. Please note, it doesn't have to be. But if you want to convince me, you better show me that you know what you're talking about. Because just because I think the rules say, no, don't tell me you think it, find it and read it to me, so even though I might know it. All right, moving on. The head coach should indicate when their presentation of the appeal has concluded. If the coach stops talking and there's still 6 seconds left on the timer, I will look at the coach and say, is that all you need to say? Yeah, I'm done. Boom, problem solved. Now I'm going to work with my judges. We'll get to that when we get down to the next section. All right, number 6. If time is called during the presentation of the coach's appeal, the presentation must stop. When the buzzer goes off, you're done. I didn't finish my point. Don't care. You get 30 seconds, you're done. Personally, again, I'm a grace-filled guy. I'm going to work. I'll give you warnings. And this is one-on-one, no warning. Buzzer goes off, you're done. Sorry. If you couldn't find it and state it within 30 seconds, you're done. You're done. I will only listen to what you said. Number 7, if time is called before the presentation of the coach's appeal has begun, it will be an unsuccessful appeal. No vote by the judges is necessary. You catch that? The coach and the assistant coach are back and forth. I've got to find it. It's in the rule book. I know it's there. What page is it supposed to be on? I think it was page 12. Oh, man, it's not on page 12. Where is it? Page 8. And all of a sudden, beep, time goes off. You didn't say anything to the quizmaster. Okay. That was your appeal. It still counts because you only get 2 per match. Hold on a second here. Bam. Page 15, Coaches' Appeals, General Guidelines Regarding Coaches' Appeals. A team is allowed 2 coaches' appeals per match. 2. And if you don't say anything, but you called for coach's appeal, that's one of them. Oops. And remember, in overtime, you don't get an additional coach's appeal. If you used one in the first 20 questions, you only have 1 left. If you use both of them in the first 20 questions, you have none left, and no additional coach's appeals are awarded. Okay, moving on. Number 8 regards the rules about fouls. Some of you were in here before. We had an interesting conversation about this. Please note, appeals must be presented in a sportsmanlike manner, avoiding any unnecessary comments regarding members of the other team or the officials. And keep in mind, as a quizmaster, according to the rule book, if I find a coach to be acting in an unchristian or unsportsmanlike manner, I can call a foul. So if you're up there and you're berating the other team, that kid was wrong, that kid doesn't know what he's talking about, that's heresy. We ought to burn her at the stake right now. Okay, I realize it. It's an extreme example, but I'm pointing out that would be unchristian, unsportsmanlike. Okay? I would call a foul on you, even if I thought you were right. I mean, which, hopefully we don't get to that spot. But that's the point, is avoiding any unnecessary comments regarding members of the other team and the officials. Can I give you a little history of the origin of why this rule's in here? Every rule that's in this book is there because we've seen all the other stuff over the years. We've seen, trust me, folks, I don't get surprised at quiz meets very often anymore. I've seen just about everything you can name. I've seen coaches make their kids cry for getting a question wrong. I've seen coaches make kids on the other team cry because they got one right or wrong. Or, that was lucky. You shouldn't have got that. You buzzed in early on a what do we mean? You don't deserve that. Seriously, dude. Now I can call a foul on them. Maybe I could call 2 fouls on them. I've seen so much over the years. And like I said, I gave the testimony earlier, the one where I should have been given a foul because I wasn't. And I went back, for those of you that are not in the room, I actually went a little overboard. My information was correct, my attitude was wrong. And if the rules were in place, they should have called a foul on me. Because I went back to the quizmaster, the judges, and the coach of the other team and apologized because I was wrong, even though my information was right. Okay, so now, here's the part about quiz mastery. Here is middle of page 16. Quest.
Just a quick question. In the past, the assistant coaches weren't supposed to say anything at all. Mm-hmm. So now they're able to call.
They can call for the coach's appeal and
they can talk
with
during the coach's appeal.
2 people on the team, whether that's coaches, assistant coaches, or even a quizzer. 2 people may communicate verbally.
Okay.
But only the head coach can present the coach's appeal.
Yeah, that's just a little confusing. But I thanks for the clarification because in my opinion, if the assistant coach can call it, then they should be they should have the ability, like the coach, to discuss it with another team member. I agree with the head coach being able to, or I understand the head coach is the only one that can present it. But our problem, as long as we've done JBQ, is really, what is the point of an assistant coach that they take everything out of their hands except just stand there and show them the book and point and stuff. But an assistant coach is very vital in great levels, and to be able to say, hey, they missed this here, right there. But then the kid that did it probably really knows what's going on too. That's why. But this is saying only 2 people during that coach's appeal can talk. That's it.
That's what we have in the guidelines. It is to me, this is actually very clear. To me, it's actually long overdue. I have always thought that the coach, and at the time, only the head coach could call for a judge's ruling, appeal, whatever we're calling it today. Next month it'll have a new flavor. I have always thought that coach should be allowed to speak with either an assistant coach or a quizzer. I have always thought that. To me, it doesn't even make sense to not let them do that. Because frequently, the kids know the rules better than the coaches. That happens. And I'm going to talk to that kid. If I know, if Peyton's one of my quizzers and I know she knows the rules, okay, I know something's not right here, but help me figure out what is the deal here. Yeah, thank you. I got it. Yeah, I did. Now I understand.
But a quizzer can't call, but you can just talk with them.
Correct, for 20 points. Okay? A quizzer cannot call for a judge's ruling. However, this goes into team captain thing. Okay, and I'm going to hit that in the advanced strategies. If I have a quizzer, and I know, if I'm self-aware enough to know that I'm not as sharp on the rules as I should be as a coach, but I have a quizzer that really is, that quizzer can call for a judge's ruling. Oh, absolutely they can. It's a 5-point foul, but now I can, as the head coach, say, I'd like a judge's ruling, please. And now I can talk with that quizzer and find out, okay, no, why did you do that? Because you knew it was a 5-point foul. Oh, wow. Here's my request for coach's appeal. Now, that is without giving away too much, personally, I am opposed to having team captains. My opinion. With the exception, if I have a kid that's done JBQ for 4 or 5 years, really sharp, knows their stuff, knows the rule, I know that they know the rules, and they are a true team leader, I will let a kid be, and I will actually make a big deal out of it. You know, there have been times when I have made a kid a captain because it made a difference to them and to the rest of the team. But when I do it, nobody's surprised. Well, of course, Aaron, I'm thinking one in particular. I was trying to encourage a girl by the name of Erin. You probably quiz against Erin Clay from Concord. It probably would have been in your era. I could be off, but I encouraged Erin. I said, Erin, you're the kind of kid I want as a captain. She quizzed for 5 or 6 years. She was sharp. She was good. And she needed something a little bit more. And I made her the captain of the team. And she responded very well to it. But it was very judicious. In my years in Concord, and I led the JBQ program for 18 years, maybe 4 captains I might have had. Maybe 4. Maybe 5. Aaron was one. But there was a reason for it. I don't want my kids calling timeouts. That's my job. Don't take that away from me. And I would have trusted Aaron to call for a coach's appeal. I would have my oldest son, Troy, I would have trusted him. Jessica Love, I would have trusted her. Grace Fowler, I would have trusted her. I would have trusted them to do that kind of a thing. But other than that, I told my kids, nobody is a captain. My son Justin probably could have done it, but that team that he was on was so even and so strong, working so good together. We just said, none of y'all, all 3 of you are captains, but none of you can call for a timeout. I think that's how we actually did it with that team. Great. Okay. All right. We need to do the procedure because this is important here, and I want to make sure you understand this. Number 1, page 16, the middle of the page, Quizmaster and Judges Procedures for Coaches' Appeals. Everybody in the right spot. Number 1, the Quizmaster should make note of the issues for the appeal and use this to prompt the judges for a vote after the completion of the appeal. Okay, again, Charlie Brown's teacher. Wah, 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 wah. Okay, what this means is the coach has stated, I think my quizzer was correct because the rule on page 14, or page 13 for correctness, says this. And this is what my quizzer said, and I think my kid should be counted correct based on this rule. Now, that took me 15 seconds at the most. You have now presented your request for a coach's appeal. Me, as the quizmaster, I'm going to verify that you're done. You're done? Okay, good. You're done. All right, judges, you have heard what the coach requested. We, as the 3 judges, counted the child wrong. He thinks his child should have been counted correct. Now, based on the rule that he quoted, do you think that rule fits this situation? Do you agree with the coach or do you disagree with the coach? Now, please note what I don't do. I am not influencing my judges. I'm not telling them a thing about what I think. It's not my job to influence them. Their job is to pay attention to the rules and to what happened in the match. I'm not trying to influence them. I want them to arrive at an independent decision. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to vote. You have your coin. Heads up means you agree with the coach. Tails up means you disagree. Okay, everybody, put your coin in your hand. You ready? Reveal. Oh, look at that. We have a unanimous decision. We've all decided that you're correct. We're going to reverse the decision and make your child correct for 20 points instead of incorrect for -10. And since we had to reread the question for this team, we have to take away the 20 points for this team. Or, that's, if you ever see, how many of you remember the movie Clue? Remember that it had 3 different endings? Okay, here's scenario number 2. You've presented your appeal. I've talked with my judges. Reveal your coins. Ooh, we have a split vote. Okay, now, number 1. Do not step out of the room to discuss this issue. Please do not step out of the room. That's somewhere in here. Let me find it. Number 5. Yeah, there. Thank you. If the vote is not unanimous, the quizmaster and judges will, without leaving the room, we used to have quizmasters go out in the hallway and have these little parties out in the hall, and they were out there for 2, 3, 4 minutes. No, stay right where you are, talk in a little whisper so you can all hear each other. I know some of the rooms are kind of crowded, so be it. Just stay there. Okay, here's what we heard. You're voting, and I go through the rule, and I apply the rule to the situation. Again, I'm not trying to influence your vote. I always tell my judges, what did you hear? Because you have to vote on what you heard. Okay? What did you hear? Okay? You're going to vote. Okay? Does everybody understand how the rule applies to this situation? Yeah, I got it. Okay. So now we're going to vote again. Okay? And that's rule number 5. If the vote is not unanimous, the quizmaster and judges will, without leaving the room, discuss the appeal among themselves without exerting undue influence on each other. I'm not telling them how to vote. I'm not telling them how I'm going to vote. I'm just making sure they understand the situation and how the rule applies to this situation. This discussion should be as brief as possible. We're not into legal wrangling here. Okay? Now, be careful not to allow their discussion to be heard by the teams or the audience. Yeah, we're going to do the best we can.
Sorry.
I mean, some of y'all have good voices that carry. You're going to hear me. I mean, I'll keep it down and maybe I can keep it a little bit, but you're going to hear me. Life goes on. Vote again, revealing their coins at the same time. Number 6, the second vote on a coach's appeal does not have to be unanimous. If we still have a split vote, we're going to announce the majority. Okay, we had 2 votes. It's not unanimous. We're done. Okay, the quizmaster will announce the majority decision and then, if necessary, take the appropriate steps to correct the situation. Let me point something out to you as coaches, especially. Listen very carefully. It has never been the fault of a quizmaster why your team has lost a match. Do not walk out of a match telling your kids, well, we'd have won that match if that quizmaster would have known what he was doing, because it goes against what she was saying in the first session. What are we teaching our kids then? Okay,
It's not your fault.
that quizmaster may be relatively new at what they're doing, and maybe they really did make a mistake. Maybe 2 of the 3 judges really are wrong. Guess what? That's not why you lost the match. If the match was that close, you shouldn't have even been in the situation where one question should have been that tight anyways.
So I have a question on
Sure.
that. In past times, we've had the situations where the quizmaster is new, the coach didn't like what happened with the appeal process and wanted the coordinator to come in and overrule or clarify, but usually it's we want to fix it.
If you would please, turn to page number 17. Thank you. See, we got all kinds of people thinking ahead here. This is awesome. I love the way you're thinking. Please note at the bottom of page 17 where it says unusual situations. I'm going to read in about the middle of that paragraph. Listen carefully. A head coach may not request a coordinator to overturn a decision of the quizmaster and or judges because of a disagreement on judgment calls. That is now in the rule book, and it wasn't there before. Okay? Now, let's play this from both angles. Again, this is all part of Quizmaster. Okay? First of all, if you're a coach and you've used both of your judges' appeals in the first 8 questions of a match, and question 12, that Quizmaster screwed up again, but you can't do anything about it because you only get 2 appeals. And here's the bad thing. You will learn quickly. In any given JBQ room, what is the most likely scenario for the person that knows JBQ and the rules the best? Who in that room knows the rules the best? It's the coach, most of the time. The coaches are the ones that know the rules best. Most, not always.
A seasoned coach, but usually.
It's usually one of the coaches that knows the rules best. They might even be right that quizmaster really is not applying the rules fairly and equally and according to the guidelines. As a coach, what I would do is I would then walk down the hall after the match and I would talk to Dan Anderson. Or if I'm at the National Festival, find my hall coordinator. Or if I'm in my league meet, I talk to Rhianna Horton, whoever, and say, hey, let me tell you what's happening in this room. We had this one I called the judge's ruling. We had this one I judge's coach's appeal. And then at question 12, I had another coach's appeal, but I couldn't call it because I used my 2 in the first 8 questions. And then on question 19, there was another one. This person needs more training. Is there a way we could get... I would be happy to train this coach and help them learn, because the coordinator needs to know that not all Quizmasters are created equal. Okay. Now, one of my roles at the National Festival over the last 20 plus years, and I have retired from the National Festival as of 2014, I was the officials coordinator. And when I would get reports from coaches, hey, here's what's happening, I would first of all go into the room and watch the Quizmaster. And then, on more than one occasion, I walked up to a Quizmaster and said, hey, I need you in another room. We're going to make a swap here. I need you to be a scorekeeper over here. And I would tell them, I need to help you learn how to be a good Quizmaster. Some of the rules aren't being followed properly here. It sounds harsh, but hey, at National Festival, I need Quizmasters to know what they're doing. I don't need perfect people, but I need at least somebody that knows what's going on. And this isn't the place to learn. Not at the national, not at the regional, not at state. The way to learn, Quizmasters, here's the rule for you. If you're going to be a Quizmaster, please come to practice. Maybe you can't come every week, but can you come twice a month, 3 times a month, and practice being a Quizmaster? What I would do in Concord, 18 years church coordinator, even though I was the regional coordinator, I would still coordinate my church class. And I broke, kind of like what you were talking about, I had my team all together at the very beginning. We did a team building exercise, teaching, whatever it might be. And then I would break them off. Okay, Grace, you take the experienced kids over there. Anthony, you take that group over there. My ex-leaguers, Grace, not Grace because she was over here. Karen, I'm going to take Karen over here. You're going to take care of the ex-leaguers, my little kids. And we break them all up. And then what I would do with the people that are going to be Quizmasters, I would say, okay, I'm going to have you be a Quizmaster in the novice league this year. So I'm going to walk with you into the novice room, and I'm going to let you Quizmaster match. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to evaluate you and tell you what you're doing right and tell you what you're doing wrong. And teach you how to be a Quizmaster. I'm going to teach you how to do it. Here's a situation. Oh, wow, wait, what do I do here? The coach wants to call a coach's appeal. Okay, here's what we do. Okay. So then when it happens in a real match, this is the same thing that happened 3 weeks ago in practice when little Billy said this and the coach over here said, and all of a sudden it all comes together. That's how you become a good Quizmaster. You do that at practice at your church. And then in North Carolina, the way we do it, if you want to be a Quizmaster, we want you to start usually we don't even start you in our X League. Our X League is we call it the X League. It's the 10-point questions only, 2nd grade and younger. I don't know. I think y'all have a different term here.
Rising stars.
Okay. So different term. Again, it's nomenclature. I don't like starting new Quizmasters in that league for one reason. We are purposely a little flexible in the way we apply the rules to the X League kids. And we have a few people that are really good Quizmasters, but they can relate to these younger kids, and they're graceful without being lenient, they're lenient without being enabling. My wife is one of them. I tell people, if you want to be an X League quizzer, just sit with Jean and watch Jean Quizmaster these kids. She does it the way I want. I can't do it. I'm too strict on the little ones. You're wrong, kid. I'm going to bite your finger off. Okay? We don't want that attitude. Okay? We do not want that. Jean does it right. And I tell people, watch Jean. She's very graceful without being overly lenient. And what we write it in our North Carolina guidelines, this is how we want the X League to flow. For example, if a kid says, how many books are there in the New Testament? 39. Oh, I mean 27. In North Carolina, we say that's okay. In our X League. But we make sure the coaches understand we're doing that. We're going to do it fair and even. But once you get in the novice league, that don't fly. They understand that. But we do it in our X League. Okay? So a head coach may not request a coordinator to overturn a decision of the Quizmaster and or judges because of a disagreement on judgment calls. Here's what I tell Quizmasters at the regional tournament and national festival. If you make a judgment call and you follow the procedure and the coach wants me to get involved, I will back you up 100%, even if I disagree with your judgment call. If you follow the right procedure, I'm going to back you up 100% of the time. Now, if a quizmaster does a procedural error, and what they do it the wrong way, well, that's easy. I can fix that. Yeah, you did at regionals this year. How many of you were at regionals this year, Southeast? Okay, we had a situation in a room where the quizmaster was not aware of a relatively obscure rule. The coach was. I was brought into the situation, talked with the quizmaster. I didn't even talk with the coach at this point, and said, "Oh yeah, that's a procedural error. Here, I'm going to rectify it." So I stepped in and said, "Okay, teams, here's what happened. Here's the rule. Here's how we're applying it. We're going to reread a new question for both teams." Boom. Everybody was happy because it was a procedural error, not a judgment call. And again, I had mentioned this in the first hour. It was counted right in this room, but in this room, my answer was counted wrong. The closer you are to word perfect on all the answers, the more you take it out of the judge's hands. Because one judge might listen to your answer and say, "That's the essence of it. That's correct for 20 points." But another judge might say, "No, I think you're missing something important." That's a judgment call. And in this room, 2 of the 3 judges said, "You're right." The next room, 2 of the 3 judges say, "No, you're wrong." Sorry, coach. But if you don't do it exactly the way it's here, you open it to interpretation. But from my vantage point as a lead coordinator, you follow the right procedure, I will back your decision 100% without exception. I will call coaches out. I will sit a coach down. And I mean, my immediate thought is a guy in Raleigh by the name of Bill Gates was a hard-headed, hard-driving man of God, but he wanted to win bad. And I sat him down and I said, "Look, Bill, your attitude is wrong. This is not appropriate, and I don't want this anymore." Now, I did that privately. I didn't do that in front of a group, okay? And I didn't do that. But I sat him down. I said, "This is not right. I need you to change what you're doing." Now, Bill, because I said Bill Gates. It was Bill Ketchings. I'm sorry. Bill Gates was actually a completely different guy. Bill Ketchings. I sat down with him privately and said, "Your attitude was wrong. This is not what we want." And he received the rebuke because I didn't stick my finger up his nose and get all bent out of shape with him. But I said, "This is not what we want." Okay? He didn't like it, but he understood what was happening. And he did. Now, Bill had a lot of respect for me after because I got in his face privately. Okay? So you bring up a good point. It's in the rule book, and that's new in the rule book. That's new in the rule book. So excellent there. All right. Let's see here. All right, so now we're going to move in, and we only have 15 minutes left, which is fine, because I'm just going to point out a couple of things about quizmasters. The first thing I want to point out to you, my wife is a really good quizmaster. She really is. She was a quizmaster this year at the National Festival. And as far as I'm concerned, she is good enough to be a quizmaster at the National Festival. She really is. But in case you haven't figured it out, at the National Festival, they hand-pick quizmasters for the top 2 levels. They want the people that they know are the best quizmasters to be in those top 1 or 2 levels. And I can tell you off the top of my head, there are certain people, if I know they're at the National Festival, oh, you bet. Don Rector? Oh, yeah. What's the guy from Texas? Now his name is escaping me. Alan Orcutt. If Alan Orcutt is at the National Festival, he will be a quizmaster in level 1, without question. Okay? No question asked. But the difference between my wife and Alan Orcutt or Don Rector is my wife is still a little bit, "Well, I feel like I should," and she questions herself. Hey, I get it. Relieve yourself of the burden of being perfect. Okay? You're not going to be a perfect quizmaster. Coaches, give grace to the quizmasters when they're not perfect. Okay? Now, for example, if you've ever been in a room that I quizmastered, and I quizmastered in level 1 at the National Festival this year because I was there. They said, "Brian, we want you in level 1. I couldn't tell you how many mistakes I made. Now, my mistakes usually fall into one of 3 categories. Number 1 is I forget to call the quizzer. I always try to get one of my judges to be the call judge because I never. Okay. The other one is I am terrible at resetting the buzzer. I just don't do it. And then every once in a while, I will slip up on the point value. Question number 2 for 20 points. Quotation question. Where did the universe... Oh, that's 10 points. Oh, I don't know if my glasses are dirty. I don't know what. But when the match is over, it's a small little mistake. We'll move forward. Relieve yourself of the burden of trying to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect. Not everybody's going to like every decision you make. I have coaches all the time. I disagree with you. Good. Let's talk about it. But let's do it over lunch because I'm hungry and I want to go eat, okay? I'm getting hungry now and it's almost time to eat. Let's talk about it. And sometimes I'll say, you know what? I understand your point. You're saying this. I can see where you're coming from. But here's what I see, and this is why I voted it correct. Relieve yourself of the burden of being perfect. You don't have to be perfect. But here's what I do want you to do. Number 1 word for Quizmasters. This is the top word I can give you for a Quizmaster. Be consistent. Just be consistent. I can overlook a lot of your flaws as a Quizmaster if I know you're going to do the same thing every time. The other thing, maybe corollary or maybe secondary, be teachable. If you're doing something wrong and you keep doing the same thing wrong, please be willing to let me correct you to teach you how to do it right so that you stop doing it wrong. In fact, if you're doing it wrong on a regular basis, I'm not going to let you be a Quizmaster in level 1. I'm certainly not even going to let you be a Quizmaster at Nationals at all. Be willing to learn because you're going to learn something. You're going to find out. So be consistent, be teachable. I would put those as the top 2 things as a Quizmaster. Now, your job as a Quizmaster, read the questions clearly, enforce the rules fairly, and talk to the kids encouragingly. One of the things I love to do is a team comes, there's always one team that's there before the other team. It just happens that way. Hey, I'll start talking to them. Sometimes they'll say, hey, could you read a question so we hear? Yeah, I'll read a question. You want to hear my voice? You want to hear the cadence that I used? Yeah, I'll read for you. You're here first, I'll read. I'm going to get you an old question. I'm not going to get you one of the ones coming up. One thing to look out for as a Quizmaster. They're not supposed to do this, but every once in a while, they'll print the questions and they'll highlight the key word. And if you're a Quizmaster, it is nearly impossible not to pause when you get to that key word. They're not supposed to do that when they print the questions. Okay? Even if you think you know the keywords, read evenly and that's actually written in the rule book now. You're trying to read evenly. Read the whole question clearly and evenly. Okay? That's, be aware of what's going on. Which teams are supposed to be in the room right now? What round number are we on? Big one for Quizmasters. When's lunch? Is it after the 5th round, the 6th round, the 7th round, or does the coordinator have to come in and tell you which round it's going to be? Be aware of those kinds of things so that you can communicate to the kids. And just be up there and just act like you enjoy it. For me, Quizmastering is like one of the joys of my life. I love Quizmastering. So when Dan asked me to be a hall coordinator at regionals this year, he'll tell you, I was disappointed. France, I wanted to be a Quizmaster.
Brian, another big one that we had, because there were, I think, as a Quizmaster, make sure you have the kids seated in the right seats. Because we had 3 Emmas one time, and 2 of them were on the same team. And we had the wrong Emma seated.
No, wait. Say that again?
So we had 3, at the league match, we had 3 Emmas, say. But one team had 2 Emmas on one team.
So the 2 girls with the same name.
Same name were on the
So
same.
now you got to look at last names.
Not last name, but like Emma whatever, and Emma J, Emma K. Well, they whoever just put Emma the wrong one, and that was a disaster. that's one of those disasters that you want to
Can
make sure fix it up, make sure you.
But that's at the end of the match. If I'm a coach and I have 2 Emmas, 2 Billies, 2 Sammys, I'm going to make sure, okay, Sammy S got them. And, I'm sure it would even be, I'm sure it's happened.
No, this was worse. This was at the end of the day because we didn't even realize, this was like the first match of the year. We didn't realize 2 Emmas with different names. And then the coach of that team comes up and says, hey, this wasn't Emma J. This was Emma Sam. Why didn't you catch that either?
Yeah, well, see, now, at that point, it's too late. Because
now
at the,
it is.
Yeah.
Right? Has it always been that way? Has it always? I mean,
at the regional and national festivals, yeah, it would be too late. Because they've advertised for years, we are not going to, because 20 years ago, coach would walk in, hey, in round 5 yesterday, my kid scored 35, and the piece of paper only says 30. So...
And I know that's a rare situation, but
it can happen.
A lot of times, what you'll see is, for those who don't know, they'll come with the little cards, and they'll have Jim, John, Bobby, but then they put numbers by them, so it's not 1, 2, 3. Make sure that they're actually sitting where the scorekeeper needs them to sit, because they mess with these cards all the time too.
For our league, we've started printing cards that they can. Well, especially because we needed to know if they're NIV or NLT, so we printed name cards. So that the coaches could then write on their names, and they can just set the card here and have it in. So that might help that kind of thing.
Sure.
Yeah. Sorry.
No. You're illustrating the point.
Yeah.
A good quizmaster needs to be aware. Fortunately, we don't have to be aware of 2 versions anymore.
Yeah.
The way I dealt with it, I was watching what I found to be the majority in the leagues I was in is most of the kids that were doing quotes were doing NIV.
Right.
That's what I found in North Carolina and even at the regional level.
Right.
So I would tell my judges, one of my judges, hey, look, quotations, I want you, because those cards are great. I'm not always going to see it and remember it in time.
Right.
I told this judge, you follow the NLT immediately. And if the kid says a different word, look up to the NIV. I'm going to follow the NLT. And if they do something different, then I'm going to look to the NIV real quick. We don't have to do that anymore. Because now NLT is it. That's all we get.
That's good.
And I actually had a conversation with somebody at my healthy church. I said, I hope this is the last version change we have for 10 or 15 years.
That's what Pastor Don said. She's like on version 3 or 4 or something.
We started with King James only. Then we added the NIV 1984. Then we got rid of the King James and went to NIV 84 only. Then we went to NIV 2011. Now we're on NLT.
Yeah.
So we've had 4 different versions have been accepted. But right now, it's 1 only. So, any other we got 4 minutes. Any other questions or thoughts about Quizmaster?
All right. I know it's a procedural situation where the quizmaster, because when they buzz in and like in the middle of the last word, they're supposed to finish it. Well, there was a situation where the last word was the omni, and my child buzzed in, but the quizmaster did not finish it. Just stayed there and did not finish it. So he guessed which one and got it wrong. And we were doing like a point of order situation.
Exactly right.
But she didn't know what to do. Like, is it a reread for that child because it was her mistake? Or should it be a reread for both teams?
It's a reread for that team.
Team. Team.
To the best of my knowledge, there is no situation where a reread is for an individual.
I meant the team. I meant the team.
But that one should have been reread for the team because the rules are very clear. You are to stop reading immediately unless it's the last word and you have started that last word. What do we mean when we say that God is you got to finish it. You got to finish that word. So, but see, now that is not a coach's appeal.
Yeah, that's just a point of order.
That's a point of order.
And I had to call the coordinator because she didn't know. I was like, it should be a reread. I was saying for my team, it should be a reread for my team. And she just thought it had to be for both.
Just I've heard both ways. What's the correct timing of the appeal? So is it right away, like she was saying, or is it you let it play out and then you come back and say, or either way, does it matter? I mean,
that's sticky.
I've seen them where you know right away, you can see the coaches look. Wait, judge, and most coaches say, "Hold on, you'll get a chance to do that because it's supposed to play out, right?"
But this is not a coach's appeal. This is a point of order. A rules violation is in process, and I want to prevent that from happening. And the rule violation is The rules are very clear. You can put, and again, it's a point of order, so it's not going to be on page 13 or 14.
Yeah, it's gonna be the point. Yeah.
You look at it and you say, the rules state that if you begin forming the last word, you have to finish it, and you did not do that. So I think a substitute question needs to be reread for my team, because my quizzer buzzed in, and you are, according to the rules, okay, so you're preventing it. It is not an appeal, because it's not judging the correct, because the child hasn't even answered the question. And I would jump in immediately.
Yeah, I was just confused what to do. And
Good. That makes us think.
So
Go
what
ahead.
if they're answering their question and they get ruled incorrect before their 30 seconds is up? They've said nothing wrong. Is that
Point of order.
it's not a coach's appeal?
I believe we covered that.
Yeah.
I
What do you
believe
do
we
in that
covered it.
situation then?
Because
As a
that's,
master,
yeah,
what do you do?
that's where you're saying, at point of order, she didn't say anything wrong and you counted her incorrect.
Mhm.
You're supposed to give her the full 30 seconds.
Right. So then what do you do?
What do we do?
substitute for that team.
That's the only thing you can do.
Okay.
Substitute question for the, I hate the way they word this, but for the offended team. Okay. That word is just so misused, overused, or whatever you want to call it. But the team that was negatively impacted by the Quizmaster's poor choice and a quiz, and here, sorry. I'm going to ride my hobby horse for 30 seconds. Just because a child gives an answer to one question that's not the question asked does not mean that it's necessarily wrong.
Yeah.
There are a lot of questions that the answers are very similar. It may not be incorrect, but it might be incomplete.
Right.
Give that child 30 seconds because they might get all the information. There are so many JBQ questions that have similar answers, and where did Satan come from, and how did how's that other question? Where did Satan come from? There's two 20-point questions. I'm just flying off the seat of my
It was
pants.
the Antichrist. I think it's the Antichrist one.
No, I don't think it was the Antichrist. But the idea is the two answers have a lot of similar information, and if the child's giving the answer to one, is it incorrect? No. Is it incomplete? Yes. Give them the full 30 seconds to finish it out. Just because they give the answer to a different question does not necessarily make it wrong. Now, if it's a quotation question and they're quoting Romans 8:28 or 8:28 and it's supposed to be Romans 10:9 and 10, okay, that's wrong. That's incorrect. But if they're giving an answer, and it's not a quote, obviously, it might be incomplete, not incorrect. I'm sorry, I'm off my hobby horse now. Folks, it's 12:15. My understanding is that we are eating lunch. So, and then at 1 o'clock or so, they might change the timing. We're going to do an easy scorekeeping session, which I will not be in charge of, but I will be sitting there because I know that's an area I really want to learn more about. So I will be here in this session, the next one around. So have a wonderful lunch. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And we're going to shut this off. Bye.